This is a tutorial for Integrated Resources Institute eRSP system. The system will be used to clock in and out for your scheduled shifts. It will also be used as an important access point of information about a client you are supporting. And it also will be used so that you can enter important information about your client's daily activities when you are on shift with them. Before we begin, eRSP does have an app, but please do not download or use it. It is still in testing and does not give you access to the information that you need. To begin, please open up an internet browser. Once you open up that internet browser, enter into the top section, the bar, iriOC.ersp.biz. Once again, that is iriOC.ersp.biz. Go ahead and click on the link. Once you get to our site portal, you'll see Integrated Resources Institute down here. You are titled Staff. Please click on Staff. Once you click on Staff, ideally, I'd like you to save this. We'd like you to save this onto your desktop. And to do so, you click on this up arrow on the iPhone. You scroll over and you add to home screen. So we're going to go ahead and add this to home screen, eRSP mobile, add. And what this does is now we have a button here called eRSP mobile that we can click on, and it takes us directly to where we need to clock in and clock out. Your username is typically your last name first and first initial. In some scenarios, your last name may be too long. Speak to the administrator and he will assist you if you're unable to log in. Password will typically be iriOC, and once you log in, you'll be asked to reset your password. We're going to go ahead and log in. Not now. So this is the main portal. We're going to go ahead and notice that there is an upcoming shift that I have with Jennifer Aniston. I'm actually a little late to that shift, but it's still going to allow me to clock in. But because I'm late, I would have gotten text alerts that I'm late to my shift. So be aware that you will be getting text alerts if you're 5 minutes past the start of your shift. So we're going to go ahead and click on this upcoming shift. And we're going to clock in, but we're going to go back to this main screen afterwards. So upcoming shift with Jennifer Aniston. Okay, to use location. And we're going to go ahead and click on this clock in button. Okay, and now you'll see that my shift has gone green up top, which means that I am clocked in, and now this clock in feature that I was just on is actually turned into our clock out section. So you no longer need to use this window until you're ready to clock out. When you are ready to clock out, anticipating it is the time that you are scheduled to clock out, you need to make sure you enter your miles for the day. This is where you will be adding your miles. And at that point, you can then enter your miles and clock out. In order to get back to the home screen we were just at, there are 3 bars on the top right-hand corner. We are going to click on that and go back to home. The reason why we're going here is there's a couple different options. We'll have today's assignments. Right here it says 1. The reason why it says 1 is because I'm only assigned 1 shift for today. If I work with one client and go to another client, you may see a 3 here. The reason why you'll see a 3 is because we actually use another placeholder of a client called travel time. So you'll work with one client and then you'll get paid your travel time shift, and then you'll work with your next client. So those are technically 3 shifts. So just be aware of that. And then you'll also see this week's assignments. When I click on this week's, I'll go ahead and give me the shifts for this week. And it'll also allow me to, in this view, to go back to a previous week. This feature is good because you can go back to a previous week and click on it. and you can actually update notes, which we'll go into a little later. So we're going to go back to home, go to today, in progress. My shift with Jennifer Aniston is in progress. We're going to go ahead and click on it. And it takes me back to this clock out window. I'm not clocking out. I'm at a first place I'm going to go to is info. There's a couple important things in this view. So it gives you her information, her telephone number, her address, visit instructions. This is important because this will be notes given to you specific about the shift or also about the client. That's important for you to know. So your manager actually goes on the eRSP platform and enters this data. Jennifer's daily activities at 8 a.m. pickup from home, 9 to 10 Petco, and that's the address. So that tells you a little bit about what Jennifer's day entails. And then we have care notes logs, activities, and activities logs. Why these are important is because it allows you to view what your previous coworkers have written about their shifts. So you'll see Luke on 6/28 wrote that they did not provide the person transportation. Did the person volunteer? No. And did the person you support attend school today? And they said yes. And because they said yes, they answered all these series of questions. So what's great about this is that you can actually read about, if you work Monday, Wednesday, Friday with a person, when you come in on Wednesday, you could read what that Tuesday staff wrote about that client's day. It gives you a better picture of how that person's doing, how they're being supported, etc. So we're going to go ahead and close this window so we can go back to the other list. And here we have our activities. So these are activities that are assigned specific to the person you're supporting. Some of these activities will look a little different. So you'll see this is day program, ILS, health and security, activities of daily living. Sometimes if your client works, you might actually see the name of an employer. So you might see Panera Bread and then the list of all the tasks that they need to do. So when you look at activities, just keep in mind activities are specific support needs of the client, or they're actually activities that the client needs to engage in during the day. And then we have the activity log, which is just like the care notes log, which show you what the person before you wrote about any of the activities that were performed. So you'll see a lot of X's if that goal wasn't worked on or if they didn't actually participate in that goal. But then you may see sometimes a green box, and that tells you that they reported on that goal or that client engaged in that goal. But you're not seeing anything right now because this is a dummy client. Jennifer, we do not support Jennifer Aniston. And so we've skimmed through a handful of these activities. And then you'll also see client attachments. Here you'll find things like that are pertinent to the client's support needs. So you'll see an individual support plan. You might see the regional center individual program plan. You might actually see specific support instructions for the workplace. You'll see all of that as attachments here. And then you'll have client custom fields. If the client is working, you'll see their employer information here. So now that we're done with the info section, we're going to go into the notes section. So when you click on notes, you'll see these 4 boxes come up. If you actually do not see care notes, please notify your program manager, as there may not be a care note assigned to the shift. So care notes are essential to complete because that is a required reporting requirement by the regional center. We have to document daily on the client's activities. And if we do not document daily, if an audit does occur, we will not be reimbursed for that funding. So it is essential and a part of your job requirements that you complete care notes. So we're going to go ahead and click on care notes. And you'll see that Jennifer has 3 separate activities. She has we drive her, so we have a transportation. We also have volunteer and continuing education. I know in theory that on today, Jennifer does not go to school. So I'm going to go click on continuing education. Did the person you support attend school today? And I'm going to put no, and I'm going to go ahead and submit it. And I am done with that care note. So we are done. You see how it doesn't say one there anymore? It's nothing. So next is transportation. Transportation is a little bit more of just a placeholder. We have to document, but there's not much pertinent information that is captured here. But let's just go through the motions. Did you provide transportation for the client today? You put yes or no. So if we put yes, you'll see these drop downs. If you put no, all those drop downs typically disappear. I'll have to fix that. So yes. So did you pick up the client from their home or designated pickup location? Yes. Did the client sign off on eRSP at the end of your shift? Though the end of the shift has not occurred, we're going to go ahead and click yes, because I'll show you exactly what this does at the tail ends. Did you add the miles driven onto the last shift on eRSP? We're going to go ahead and let's just leave this empty for right now, and I'll show you why we have to put this placeholder in. Did the client report that there were any driving concerns today? And we are going to put no. So I'm going to go, there is no save button, unfortunately, on eRSP. So if I want to just get things just done in advance while there's some free time and there's some questions that I want to get back to, I can't save my answers here. I have to actually click submit. And the reason why I want us to put either yes or no in that section or whatever we anticipate it being is you won't be able to submit or save it unless there's something in there. So did you add the miles driven onto eRSP? Yes. Let's go ahead and press submit. We're going to click close because I want us to take it back to that screen, but we can always save that changed. We can always go in there and make changes before we clock out. So did you pick up the client from their home or designated pickup location? And we could say, you know what, I had to pick them up from their friend's house today. So I'm going to put no. We go ahead and click submit, and now it's updated it. Not only can you do this for the current shift, but you can also go back and fix previous shifts as well. So now we're done with that. We're going to go into volunteer. Oops, that wasn't volunteer. Volunteer. So Jennifer did volunteer today. So we're going to make a note as to volunteering. Did you support the person to volunteer? Yes. So now we're going to go through drop-down questions. How many locations did they volunteer at today? And we're going to say 1. If the person volunteered at 2 locations, you put 2. Where did the person volunteer at? And times and locations. So we're going to go ahead and put, say, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. at Sunrise Senior Center in La Habra. There we go. Done with that. Celebrations to note. So I want to note that this question, celebrations to note about during the volunteer shift, you should always have a celebration. There should never be a reason why you don't have a celebration. There's always something to celebrate. And this is absolutely essential because the people we support depend on us being able to celebrate them. So with that being said, and just even in the work that we do, you should do this in your life as well. Like, this is not just, because you work at IRI, you should celebrate every day with that individual. It's just a great way to have a day and to live a life. So celebrations to note during this volunteer shift, we could say Jennifer was happy to engage with seniors today. It could be something small. It could be something big, something as simple as Jennifer didn't need as many prompts today to Jennifer was able to pick up a new shift or was able to work an extra hour to help them out. So concerns. This is contrary to celebrations where, we anticipate you filling celebrations out every day. If there's no concern about the shift, you do not need to create one. So I'm just going to put not applicable here. And once again, I'm in the beginning of the volunteer shift and I have some downtime where the individual is working independently. I'm going to notify the manager. They're aware that I'm going on my phone to actually document for note taking, that I'm not using my phone for personal reasons. And in doing so, you can use not applicable as a placeholder. Briefly summarize your volunteer activities. She is not done, so you could put an X here, or if you know what typically she does, Jennifer does during the volunteer activity, you could fill it out. So Jennifer set the dining room with silverware and plates. So I made my notes. Sometimes my briefly, summarize your volunteer activities briefly. My brief sometimes is a paragraph long. Other people's brief might be 2 bullet points. And that's okay, just as long as the information you are inputting is helpful to your colleague when they read the notes. Were any goals worked on today? So Jennifer's goal is to be able to set the table as independent as possible. So that was the goal she was working on today. Anything important to note about the person's volunteer site? Anything new going on? New seniors moved in, and Jennifer is getting acquainted with them. So this is just anything new. If there's nothing new, you put not applicable. What instructional support techniques were provided? Have you started to fade to least restrictive supports? This will be, you cannot truly answer this question until you and your manager or your trainer have reviewed the training tool instructional support strategies. The goal is that we provide the least restrictive supports in any setting so that the individual we support is as independent as possible. So please ensure that you work with your manager to understand what direct verbal prompt is and indirect verbal prompt is and shadowing is and physical prompts are. And if you don't know what those words are, that means you do not understand instructional support techniques that are used in the work that we do. And then some additional questions. Did the person interact positively with their manager? Yes, no, not applicable. With coworkers? Yes, no, not applicable. Customers? Yes. And then interact positively with the job coach? Yes. Again, if they are not done with their shift, but this is typically what occurs, then you just put it in as placeholders so that you can save it, because the save is the submit button until you actually clock out. And even after you clock out, you can always make changes. Did any special incidents occur today? If yes, please contact your program manager immediately. So a special incident report, there is a training on what is a special incident report that will also be given to you by your trainer / program manager or director. Please ensure that you understand your reporting requirements for special incidents and for APS reporting. Not every day special incidents and APS reports occur, but if they do occur, they're very serious and they need to be reported immediately. Please, if it's a Friday night you're working and you don't want to bug your manager because it's Friday night and you're going to wait till Monday, we have in in this, because you've also addressed the situation and you've taken care of it, we've actually violated our contract with the regional center, because we have 24 hours to notify the regional center of a special incident and 48 hours to report the documentation. Okay, any follow-up needed by your program manager? If you say yes in this, your manager gets an alert on the eRSP portal that they need to follow up and review your notes. So make sure if you do say follow-up needed by your program manager, when you put yes, that you make some kind of note on here as to why there was follow-up needed. So at this point, we're going to put no. And then were any concerns of the manager or volunteer side? So there was no concerns. No concerns not applicable. Or you could say no concerns. So now we are going to go ahead and just make sure, I believe we have everything in. We didn't put this, so I just want to show you again the issue here. We're going to get an error message. You're going to close it. You go back in here and you're going to put your placeholder until you're done for the day, and then you're going to submit. And now you can actually save it. We already did continuing education, but I'm just going to click continue just to show you what that looks like. And then we're going to go ahead, same response, submit. And we are done with care notes. Sometimes it takes a second to save, especially depending on your Wi-Fi. So we've finished care notes, that's done, but there's activities section here. So these are those goals assigned to that client that need to be reported on. If you did not work on the goal, do not document, but if you did work on the goal, document. And then also if you tried to work on the goal, but the client refused, please document that as well. So we're clicking on activities. It's loading. Sorry about the delay. And it froze. And it's not frozen anymore. Okay. So you have information about the client for day program, and then you have these other sections that have a plus button next to it. You see employment services. If it's not open, do not document. The reason why it's showing you this is it's actually showing you you know how I told you about there's other, food pantry, Home Depot, IRI office, Pepinos. This portal will also show you all the categories that were ever created on eRSP. So don't click on the plus button, only work on the ones that are open and available to you. So in this scenario, Jennifer lives in a group home, and we have to make sure that we save her receipt. So we're going to go ahead and click save, completed. And you can make a note. Jennifer purchased a water receipt. Saved. Done. Dietary needs. If the person you support has dietary needs or has assistance with toileting, you also want to make sure if there's any supports provided in this area. So Jennifer needed verbal prompts to redirect her to a healthier meal option. Done. And you can complete as many as you did for that day. So we're going to go ahead and select update because we worked on a couple different goals for that day. And once again, this is important for us to document because this helps your coworker when they come in for their next shift to read what occurred during your shift. So now we are up to date. So we went over care notes, which are required activities, depending on, the day and if the client engages in it. And then we have the staff signature section. So you want to make sure that before you clock out that you go ahead and sign and save. And the same thing for the client. Before you clock out, she has a signature on file that's currently being used. She likes to smile, so that's being saved. So yeah, we've used that signature, so that's not a problem. Again, info has information about the client's shift. Notes allow you to document. And then finally, clocking out. We are still too early to clock out for this shift. My shift doesn't end until 3:30. We've only actually been on the clock for 0.3 hours. But before you clock out, make sure you enter your miles for the day. Miles begin as soon as you get to the client, and miles end as soon as you drop off a client. If you go from one client to the next, you count all of those miles at the end of the last shift. So, and typically if you're doing back-to-back shifts, you only need to clock in with Jennifer and let's say clock out with Tom. You don't need to clock in and out, clock in and out. If you have any other questions, please refer back to your program manager or your trainer and they will guide you.